Hello class, Sir Jude's here, and welcome to my math class. In this video, we are going to study on how to solve rational inequality.
Example number 1. Find the solution of the rational inequality x minus 1 all over x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 1. Step 1. You are going to write the inequality with a single rational expression on one side of the inequality and 0 on the other side. Since the right side of the inequality is 1, using the addition property of inequality, we will add both sides of the inequality with negative 1 to make one side equal to 0 and to isolate all the expression on the left side. Or, pwede mo ring i-transpose. Ang term natin dyan is, ang pinaka-shortcut natin is, you're going to transpose 1 on the left side. So, mangyayari, kung mag-add tayo both sides with negative 1, you will have x minus 1 all over x plus 3 minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. As you can observe, the left side of the inequality is not yet written as a single rational expression. So we can write it into single rational expression by writing each term into similar fractions or terms with the same denominator. We're going to multiply negative 1 with x plus 3 all over x plus 3. So multiplying it, you will have a negative quantity of x plus 3 over x plus 3. Since the two expressions x minus 1 over x plus 3 and x plus 3 over x plus 3 have the same denominators, then we can combine them. We can combine them by combining the numerators. So you have x minus x is 0, and you have negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So write negative 4 and copy the common denominator. So you have negative 4 over x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So let's proceed to step 2. In step 2, you're going to determine the meaningful numbers. We will set the numerator of the rational expression equal to 0 and the denominator equal to 0. So first, we have the numerator 4 or the numerator negative 4 equal to 0 and our denominator x plus 3 equal to 0. Solving negative 4 equal to 0, we know that negative 4 is not equal to 0. And our denominator x plus 3 equal to 0. We're going to solve for x by adding both sides of the equation with the opposite of the constant term. We will isolate the variable. So, add negative 3 on both sides of the equation. So, you have x equals negative 3. Negative 3 is the meaningful number. So step 3, you're going to divide the number line into intervals using the meaningful numbers. So since our meaningful number is negative 3, so we're going to draw a broken line on negative 3. And as you can see, the number line is divided into two intervals. We have the number or the numbers on the left of negative 3. Let's denote it as interval A. And the numbers or the interval on the right of negative 3, let's denote it as interval B. So, in step 4, we're going to test the meaningful numbers and values in the interval using the inequality. So, we have our meaningful number, x equals negative 3. So, itetest natin yan by substituting it to the inequality kung pwede ba siyang maging solution ng inequality mo. So, substituting negative 3 on x, so you will have negative 4 all over negative 3 plus 3. Negative 3 plus 3, so you will have 0. So, you can write it as negative 4 over 0 is greater than or equal to 0. Since negative 4 over 0 is undefined, so, of course, undefined is not greater than or equal to 0. So, we can say that the meaningful number, negative 3, cannot be the solution of our inequality. So, you have two sets of interval. For interval A, since we're going to test values within the interval, or we're going to test values within within interval A. So choose tayo kahit anong number dyan na pasok sa, or and the numbers on the left of negative 3. Let's choose negative 4 for interval A. So let's say x equals negative 4. We're going to test x equals negative 4 if negative 4 will make our inequality true when we substitute it. By substitution, you will have negative 4 over negative 4 plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So, ang gagawin mo, papalitan mo ng negative 4 ang x mo. So, you have negative 4, solving it, you have negative 4 over negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. It's greater than or equal to 0. Simplifying it, negative 4 over negative 1 is equal to 4. So your inequality is 4 is greater than 0. So since 4 is greater than or equal to 0, we can say that the inequality is true. Thus, the interval A can be the solution of your inequality. Let's test interval B. So we can choose any value on the left of negative 3. So let's choose negative 1, or kayo bahala kahit anong value na gusto nyong gamitin para sa interval B. Since we choose 1 for our interval B, we will use it for the value of x. So isa-substitute natin siya sa ating inequality. Negative 4 over x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. Substitute natin ang 1 sa x. So you will have negative 4 over 1 plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So simplifying it, you have negative 4 over 1 plus 3 is 4. So further, negative 4 over 4, that's negative 1. So our inequality now is negative 1 is greater than or equal to 0. Since negative 1 is not greater than or equal to 0, so therefore we can say that the interval B, which has the values or the numbers on the left of negative 3 is not a solution of our inequality. So step 5, we're going to combine all the solutions of our inequality. So the meaningful number, we have x equals negative 3, not a solution of our inequality. Interval A, which is the numbers on the left of negative 3 or on the left of negative 3 to negative infinity, is a solution of our inequality. And interval B, the numbers on the right of negative 3 or from negative 3 to positive infinity, excluded ang negative 3, is not a solution of our inequality. Thus, the solution of our inequality is negative 3 to negative infinity, excluded ang negative 3. Okay? Or all the numbers on the left of negative 3. Example number 2. Find the solution of the rational inequality x plus 1 all over 4 minus x is less than 0. Step 1 is to write the inequality with a single rational expression on one side of the inequality and 0 on the other side of the inequality. Since the inequality is already written as a single rational expression isolated on one side of the inequality and 0 on the other side, we're going to proceed to step 2. Step 2 is we're going to determine the meaningful numbers. So determining the meaningful numbers, we're going to equate the numerator and denominator to 0. So x plus 1 equal to 0 and 4 minus x equal to 0. Solving for x, sa x plus 1 equal to 0, so we can add both sides of the inequality with negative 1, or we can transpose 1 on the other side. So we have x equals negative 1. And then you have 4 minus x equal to 0. So here, pwede natin i-transpose ang negative x sa right side. Then you have 4 equals x, or x equals 4. So we have two values, or we have two meaningful numbers, the negative 1 and 4. So step 3, we're going to divide the number line into intervals using the meaningful numbers. So our meaningful numbers are negative 1 and 4. So we have three sets of interval. The numbers on the left of negative 1, let's name it as interval A. And the numbers in between negative 1 and 4, let's name it as interval B. And the numbers on the right of 4, let's name it as interval C. Step number 4. Test the meaningful numbers and values in the interval using the inequality. So, one of the meaningful numbers is negative 1. So, testing negative 1, we're going to substitute it to the original rational inequality, x plus 1 over 4 minus x less than 0. So, yung x, papalitan natin ng negative 1. So, you will have negative 1 plus 1 all over 4 minus negative 1. So, negative 1 plus 1, 0. And 4 minus negative 1, so that is 5. So, therefore, 0 over 5 is 0. And 0 is less than 0. We know that 0 is not less than 0. So therefore, we can say that our value negative 1, which is one of our meaningful numbers, is not the solution of our inequality. Another meaningful number is x equals 4. So substitute it to the original inequality. So you will have 4 plus 1 over 4 minus 4 is less than 0. So you have 4 plus 1 is 5 and 4 minus 4 is 0. 5 over 0 is undefined, and we know that undefined is not less than 0. So therefore, x equals 4 is not the solution of our inequality. Next is we're going to test the intervals, or we're going to test the values within the interval. So we know that the number line was divided into 3 intervals. Let's test first the interval A, or the values of the numbers on the left of negative 1. So let's choose negative 3. So yung negative 3 as a value of our x, substitute natin yan sa inequality natin. So you will have negative 3 plus 1 over 4 minus negative 3. So less than 0. So negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, while 4 minus negative 3 is 7. And we know that negative 2 over 7 is less than 0. And it's true. So therefore, we can say that interval A with the interval from negative 1 to negative infinity, excluded ang negative 1, is one of the solutions of our inequality. Let's try another interval. The numbers in between negative 1 and 4. Let's name it interval B. Let's choose number 3. So that's our x. We're going to substitute it to our inequality. So we have 3 plus 1 over 4 minus 3 is less than 0. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. And simplifying it, 4 divided by 1, or 4 over 1, is 4, less than 0. Since 4 less than 0 is false, so we can say that interval B with values in between negative 1 and 4 is not the solution of our inequality. Let's test another interval, the values on the left of 4. So let's say we're going to test 5. So that's our x. We're going to substitute it to our original inequality. So you will have 5 plus 1 all over 4 minus 5 is less than 0. So simplifying it, you will have 5 plus 1 is 6, and 4 minus 5 is negative 1, is less than 0. Simplifying 6 divided by negative 1, you have negative 6. And we know that negative 6 is less than 0, and it's true. So therefore, we can say that interval C with values on the numbers, or with values on the right of 4, or the values from 4 to positive infinity excluded ang 4, is the solution of one of the solutions of our inequality. So we're going to combine now the solutions of our inequality. First, our meaningful numbers. We know that negative 1 and 4 are not solutions of our inequality. Or interval A with values on the left of negative 1 are the solutions of our inequality. Interval B with values in between negative 1 and 4 are not the solutions of our inequality. And interval C with values on the right of positive 4, or from 4 to positive infinity excluded ang 4, are solutions for our inequality. We're going to unite them or combine them. So we can write it as, thus, the solution of our inequality is the union of the values on the left of -1 and the values on the right of +4. Or from -1 to -infinity, excluded ang -1, and from +4 to +infinity, excluded ang +4. Let's have example number 3. Find the solution of the rational inequality x plus 1 times x minus 2 all over x minus 5 is greater than 0. So step 1, we're going to write the inequality with a single rational expression on one side of the inequality and 0 on the other side of the inequality. As you can observe, our given inequality already satisfies step 1. Then we're going to proceed to step 2. Step 2, determine the meaningful numbers. We're going to equate the numerator and denominator to 0. So the numerator equal to 0, the denominator equal to 0. And then solve for the value of your variable. In our case, our variable is x. So we have x plus 1 times x minus 2 equal to 0. To solve for x, so we have our first factor, x plus 1 equal to 0. Then our x equal to -1. Our second factor, x minus 2 equal to 0. So our x equal to 2. And for our denominator, x minus 5 equal to 0, our x is 5. So we have 3 meaningful numbers here. You have -1, 2, and 5. So step 3, we're going to plot the meaningful numbers and identify the region of interest. So our expression or our inequality is x plus 1 times x minus 2 over x minus 5 is greater than 0. So we have our real number line. We're going to plot our meaningful numbers here. So our meaningful numbers are -1, 2, and 5. So dito sa real number line, lalagyan natin siya ng boundary. So our meaningful numbers will serve as our boundary for every interval. So we have our -1, our 2, and our 5. So the real number line will be divided into 4 regions. Excluded ang meaningful numbers. So, kung anong arrangement ng -1, 2, and 5, that would be the arrangement of your factors on the left side. Ganito pagkasulat. Sulat mo muna, since we have -1 here, so isulat mo muna sa pinakaitaas ang x plus 1 na factor. Followed by 2, so sulat mo ang x minus 2. And then, followed by x minus 5. I repeat, kung anong arrangement ng meaningful numbers mo dito sa real number line from left to right, ganun din ang arrangement ng factors mo. Ang pagkasulat dito sa left side ng factors, left side ng graph mo from top to bottom. Okay, ganyan din pagkasulat. So, as you can see, we have -1 as our first meaningful number. Ang nasa left niyan will be negative. Ang nasa left niyan will be negative. Yung -1, nakita niyo yung -1 na meaningful number. Ang nasa left niyan will be negative. Align, horizontal, sa factor natin na x plus 1. Yan, dyan result in negative. And then, yung nasa right naman niya, every region dyan magpa-positive. Positive, positive, positive. Bakit? Okay, because if we're going to choose whatever number, like for example, anong number nasa left ng -1? Let's try -2. Kung isa-substitute natin yan sa expression natin na x plus 1, so you have -2 plus 1, diba? You have -1. So negative siya. Ano naman ang numbers na nasa right ng -1? So, let's try 0. Kung isa-substitute natin yan sa expression natin na x plus 1, 0 plus 1, di ba positive na siya? Let's try 4. 4 plus 1, positive pa rin. Let's try 6. 6 plus 1, 7. Positive pa rin. So, that's why positive yung nasa right side niya. Lahat ng nasa right side. Next, they have x minus 2. So, punta ka naman sa boundary ng, sa meaningful number na 2. So, lahat ng region na nasa left ng 2 will become negative or will be considered as negative. Lahat naman ng region na nasa right ng 2, magpa-positive siya. Pagkasulat ng signs, dapat naka-align sa x minus 2 na expression or factor. So, you have negative, negative. And then, ang nasa right ng meaningful number natin na 2, positive, positive. And then, for the 5, ganun din. Ang nasa left, negative, negative, negative. Ang nasa right ng meaningful number natin na 5, positive. On the first interval, yung nasa left ng negative 1, yung sign dyan, for example, let's consider the negative sign will be a negative number. That means we have 3 negative numbers. So, if we're going to multiply 3 negative numbers, negative, negative times negative, the product or quotient will be negative. And then, in the interval from negative 1 to 2, so positive times negative naman, in this portion, positive number times negative, so you'll have a positive number. So, ang sikreto lang dyan, just count the negative signs. Kung add numbers ang negative signs mo, so you have a negative number. Kung positive, kung even numbers naman ang negative signs mo, then you will have a positive. Katulad sa first interval kanina, we have tatlong negative signs, meaning tatlong negative numbers, so mag-negative talaga siya. Kasi walang pares yung isa. Hindi siya magpa-positive. And then dito naman sa second interval natin, from negative 1 to 2, you have 2 negatives. So magpapares yan, magpa-positive yan siya. So magpa-positive talaga siya. Multiply to another positive. And then the third interval, from 2 to 5, so meron tayong isang negative, so negative na yan. And then, on the right of 5 naman na interval, positive na yan. Now, how are we going to identify which interval we are going to choose as our solution of the inequality? So, going back to our original inequality, x plus 1 times x minus 2 over x minus 5 is greater than 0. If we're going to look at this symbol, this is greater than 0. So that means our inequality or our rational expression on the left should be greater than 0. No? So ano ibig sabihin ng greater than 0? Greater than 0 means positive. So, ibig sabihin, hahanapin natin ang region na nagbibigay sa atin na positive answer or positive number. So, in what region? So, that is the region between negative 1 and 2 or the interval from negative 1 to, or the interval between negative 1 and 2. So, ito yung positive na region and another region. So, the first interval is from negative 1 to, or in between negative 1 and 2. And the second region that satisfies our inequality is from 5 to positive infinity, excluded ang 5. Therefore, the solution of our inequality is the numbers or the values in between negative 1 and 2, union 5 to positive infinity, excluded ang 5. So, parenthesis ang gagamitin natin kasi excluded sila. Okay? That's it.
Don't forget to like and share this video. And also don't forget to follow my page, Sir Jude's Math Class.